dad was outside again counting birds, and Mama plugged in a nightlight, and I saw the queen of the world. Mama plugged in a
Welcome to the
nightlight,
Golden
and
Hour
I
Birth
saw the
Podcast.
queen
I am
of
your
the
co-host
world.
Liz, and Natalie is here with us too. And this episode, we're back with part 3 of Nicolette's birth story. Just a reminder that this episode contains discussions about a near-death experience involving childbirth for both mom and baby. If you haven't listened to episodes, parts 1 and 2 of Nicolette's birth story, definitely go back and listen to those first. This is part 3, where Nicolette talks about her postpartum experience. So we'll jump right back into her story after just a little recap of part 2. Thanks for listening.
I started to develop this feeling that I could not shake. I said, I'm afraid I'm going to die in labor. The night was like super uneventful. And all of a sudden, I couldn't see anymore. I looked at her and I said, I'm dying. So he got my son out in under a minute. My son came out and he was pale, limp, and making zero respiratory effort. He had a heart rate, so they gave him an APGAR of 1. When he made the incision, he said that 2 liters of blood just poured out of my stomach. So as soon as he got Alec out and handed him off to NICU, he called trauma. They could not find the source of the bleed. They had to stop and resuscitate me. So at some point during my pregnancy, I had developed a splenic artery aneurysm. Why did we survive? Splenic artery aneurysm rupture in pregnancy holds a 75% mortality rate in mothers. In babies, it holds a 95% mortality rate. I have a tube down my throat. I'm on a ventilator. I'm sedated. And then I woke up. You get to go see your son. He got extubated a few hours after I was extubated because he is my little wolf. He is a fighter, just like me. All I was doing was fighting. I fought for my life. I fought for my son's life. I fought to wake up. I fought to get extubated. I fought to see my son. I fought to see my daughter. I'm fighting for these doctors to listen to me. All I did was fight. And I did not feel strong. Coming home was weird. I remember getting out of the car and like in my neighborhood and seeing the trees was the first thing I noticed. And I was like, holy shit, like I could have never seen trees again. Like there are trees, beautiful trees, Mother Nature. Oh my God, amazing. And I was like, grateful. And then, my limitations and the breastfeeding thing wasn't working out. It was super painful. I was starting to resent my son. I was forcing this bond because of what happened to us. I felt like he didn't like me and I felt like a shitty mom and I didn't know who I was anymore. And I completely lost myself. And I have never, ever in my life had such scary, dark thoughts about myself. And I was seeing a perinatal psychologist in the hospital and I continued to see her outside of the hospital. But my one condition was that I didn't want to go on medication. I don't knock medication. You need medication, you take it. That's what works for you. You do it. I started taking Xanax when I was in nursing school because a lot of things were happening when I was in nursing school and I was in and out of the ED with like random abdominal pain and like feeling like I was having a heart attack, but it was a panic attack, like a lot of things. So I take it like here and there if my anxiety's through the roof, but I never felt comfortable taking anything more. That's just me. I don't like the way I feel on certain medications. I mean, I'm on the lowest dose of Xanax that there is possible. They were trying to push really hard for me to go on meds. And, I had a real big the sense of loss of control with everything that happened. And this was the one thing that I could control. So I was like, I'm going to do this the way that I want to do it because this is my journey, not yours, mine. I went through this, not you. So I started PT because I was due to go back to work and I couldn't stand up straight. And I couldn't hold my son and I had pain still real bad. And I said, I got scar tissue adhesions for sure. My My C-section incision reopened when I was home. I developed stitch abscesses along the abdominal incision. So this really kind of skinny incision that I was like, oh, I mean, I guess it's not that bad. Whatever, I'll just wear a high-waisted bikini, or maybe not because it's so thin. Started to have pockets, pus, and reopen. So now it's like a fatter scar that's a little more like uneven and all this stuff. And I told my trauma surgeon, like, I can't get up from a chair. It takes me a long time to stretch, like to stand up. And so he put me in PT and I started PT. And this time, it's summer, my drains had started to come out. And I was like, I'm taking my kids to the pool. I couldn't swim. Serge had to come with me every time. And I could hold Alec in the water, but I couldn't support my own body weight. And me telling my therapist, like, yeah, we took the kids to the pool, translated to short-term disability that I had nothing wrong with me. So they were like, you can go back to work. We're not paying you anymore. And I'm like, oh, hold on. Because I was a bystander at the pool, you think that I can go back to work? I am diagnosed with PTSD, major manic depressive episodes. I'm in physical therapy because I literally can't, my core is completely gone. And I'm a labor and delivery nurse. Do you know what that is? I don't hold babies all day. Like, I catch fainting dads. I hold moms up for epidurals. I hold legs, heavy legs to help moms push. I push stretchers. I'm reaching, I'm leaning, I'm bending, I'm jumping, I'm squatting. I'm running with my patients on stretchers sometimes. Like, I can't even I can't bend down to put my groceries away. And you think I can go back to work? So on top of all this, like, birth trauma and mental anguish I'm going through, I have to fight with short-term disability to prove that I'm injured. Like, I never wanted to be a poster child for fucking birth trauma. I would have much rather have an easy peasy, uneventful vaginal delivery than to have to sit here and prove to you that I am not mentally capable to go back to work where I almost died and almost lost my son, and that I am physically not capable of returning, even if I was mentally capable. They wanted to fight with me about it. I sent in like 270 pages of my PT notes that are like, patient wants to know when she can return back to work, advising not to return back to work. She can't do this. She can't do that. I don't know how. And they denied me, and I had to appeal. And I'm like, what are you reading that's telling you that I am capable of doing my job? Because all the things that you're saying that I have to be able to meet in order to get short-term disability, I meet. I can't do 80% of my job duties. I cannot make 80% of my paycheck because I cannot return to work. I have a physical a disability that's stopping me from doing these things. So I had to fight, and I had to fight, and I had to fight, and fight more, and fight more, and fight more. And somewhere along the way, I stopped physical therapy because I had graduated, and, it was like, now just do the work on your own. We gave you what you need. I still don't return back to work right now. If you do light duty, like secretary, whatever, I'm not a secretary. I'm a labor and delivery nurse. My therapist supported me not returning back to work, but to them, it was like my PTSD maybe wasn't like PTSD enough, because I was paying my bills and I was taking care of my children and I was cooking. Cause it's like, what else am I supposed to do? Starve my kids, have them in a state so bad that the state comes in and takes them. Then you're going to say I have PTSD. Of course you think I don't have PTSD. I don't live in the place that I almost died. I work there. I can't go there. I can't drive past there without having a visceral response. Like, mental illness doesn't look the same on everybody. You can't just check a box like, yeah, cries, not eating, sleeping all day. Like, oh yes, you have PTSD. My PTSD manifested in a way where my house was tip-top shape and I started organizing everything into, lids and glass jars and labels and stuff like that. My PTSD manifested in making sure that my daughter was in all of her extracurricular activities for school. My PTSD was manifesting and I overbought for Christmas to make up for the horrible delivery that my son had, for almost dying on my daughter. My house was like Christmas threw up in it. That's the way my mental illness was manifesting, because I was trying to keep everything as normal for my child as possible. But to them, it was like, you take care of your kids, you can go back to work. And I just was kind of like, that's a big fat fuck you. I'm not doing that. I did appeal and I won my appeal, but they wouldn't pay past August. So I went and I got that paycheck in March, the beginning of March. So I hadn't got paid since June. But thank God that my sister set up the GoFundMe and so many generous people donated, because I was able to not work because of that GoFundMe. We were living off of it. Once I stopped PT, my mental health took a turn for the worst, because then there was nothing else. Like, I was done with PT, like, okay, it's time to go back to work. Like, I was kind of being pushed to go back to work. And that push to go back was really anxiety ridden, and like my nightmares picked up, my flashbacks picked up. And I was in a really dark place where even Serge was afraid of what I was going to do. I never felt suicidal, but I had one thought, just one time. And it was my brain telling me that my children deserve someone better than me. Someone who wasn't sad all the time. Someone who was more fun. Someone who could take them swimming, could swim with them. Someone who isn't so angry, who isn't physically limited and disfigured and has PTSD. My brain was telling me all these things. And I said, you're a fucking lie, because I'm a great mom. And how dare you say that to me? It's like I was having this inner dialogue. And I remember one night I said to Serge, I started crying, and he was like, what's wrong? And I said, my brain is not being really nice to me today. And he's like, well, what happened? I was like, well, it told me that my kids deserve better than me, that you all deserve better than me. And he was like, baby, you can't think like that. And I said, but I'm not. My brain told me that. I'm not thinking that way. My brain told me. And I know it's lying, because I know what kind of mom I am. I love my children. Before all this happened, I loved being a mom. It was the single-handedly most greatest thing I'd ever done with my life. And I didn't want kids at one point in my life, and to feel like being a mom was my greatest accomplishment to being where I was. I just was like, maybe my brain is right. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this. I couldn't continue to breastfeed Alec. I was in too much pain. Like, I can't be alone with him. I get frustrated. I can't take care of him. Like, I have all this like hate and anger, and I'm so bitter, and I'm jealous. And like, these are all things that I was not before this. Like, I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know who I am. I'm not a nurse. I'm not a labor and delivery nurse. Like, I'm a patient. I am just withering away inside of myself. And everyone else is just still living their life. Like this never happened to me. And I have to act like I'm fine. And acting like I was fine caught up with me. And I told Serge, I said, I need to go away. And he was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you have to go away? And he's thinking that I like want to off myself. But I'm like, I just need to be away from everyone. And I need to go cry. And I need to go deal with what I have not dealt with. Suppressing that trauma, suppressing the fact that I almost died. Like I say, like, oh, I almost died. But like, I'm really not exaggerating. I almost lost my life. And coming to terms with something like that is really strange. And those statistics that I spit out before, it's strange. And people are showering me with, you're a miracle. Your son's a miracle. Like, I believe my son is a miracle, but to hear it for myself, it's like, I almost can't subscribe to it because I don't feel like I'm such a I'm not a horrible person, but I don't feel like I'm such an amazing angelic person that I would be spared death. So all this like attention, it was a lot for me. And I didn't feel it. I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel the way that people were talking to me because I was like, I don't like my son. Like, how could you tell me that I'm a miracle? I'm exhausted. My son doesn't sleep. I'm angry. Like, I get angry at my son because he doesn't sleep. How could I get angry at a miracle? What kind of person am I that I'm angry that an actual miracle in my house won't sleep? I'm not a good person. I'm not a good mom. I suck. All those horrible, horrible things. And then, of course, body image issues. Now I had cute little body and now I'm all cut up. I look like I had an autopsy done on me upside down. I have an upside down T on my body. And I have a constant living reminder, my son, of what happened and physical reminders that I can't get past. And I just wanted to disappear. And even though I had all of that support, I felt so alone. Because my brain was just playing so many tricks on me. And I unfortunately, have a pretty good trauma base. I'm not a stranger to pain and suffering. I've gone through things. So I'm not starting at zero. I can understand how someone starting at zero who has never experienced something traumatic in their life would probably have thoughts of harming themselves. But one of my biggest fears in life is dying. And I almost did that. So I was not going to kill myself. I wasn't going to end my life and leave my daughter motherless and leave my son motherless and have my son thinking it's his fault the rest of his life, because it's not. He saved my life. He saved my life in more than one way. My daughter has saved my life many nights when she has seen me drift away in my eyes. And she comes to me and she says, "Mama, I'm so happy that you're my mama. You are the best mama." And she just knows that I need to hear that because I am honest with her and I tell her, I'm like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, because I don't always feel like the best mama. And I know that I'm not the same mama I was before Alec was born. So when you say that, it makes me feel really happy, but you don't have to tell me that if you don't mean it. And she's like, "I do mean it, Mama. You're the best mama in the world." And she hugs me. And it's just like, this is what I'm living for. And my daughter has brought me back from the brink on so many occasions. She's such an empathetic soul. And I don't know what I did to deserve her in my life. She is amazing. And she just knows what I need when I need it. And I am so grateful for her. If Alec was my first kid, he would be my last kid. I would not want to go through any of this. And now I said, I'm tired of feeling this way. I'm tired of my big feelings falling onto my daughter. And I don't want her to have to grow up faster because of this. I want her to stay how she is. And I want her to just have her mom back. And that is when I made the decision to do the hard work and to face all of that darkness that I was trying to not face. And it sucked. But little by little, it just, there was a change in tide. And it started happening around February, right before I went back to work. I wasn't going to have a birthday party for Alec because I was like, I don't know that I'm going to be there mentally to do that. And my cousin Fran actually kind of helped me change my mind because she was like, at the time, she texted me, she was like, "Oh, well, I mean, I can't possibly understand what you're going through, but you guys survived. And I think that that's worth celebrating. And I would love to be there to celebrate that with you." And I'm like, "She don't understand when I'm big girl. There's no way I'm having a fucking party the day that I almost died." Because it is what it is, right? Like, his birthday is more than a birthday. And with that comes a duality of emotions, gratefulness and grief, anger and joy. So I'm like, I'm not going to want to party. But I sat with it a little bit. I said, if I change my mind, I'll let you know. I sat with it a little bit and I kind of thought about Alec when he's like 7, 8, 9, 10, 15. And people are like, happy birthday. And he's like, my mom doesn't celebrate my birthday. She thinks it's a shitty day and she don't celebrate my birthday. And it broke my heart because I don't ever want him to feel like what happened to me is his fault, because it did not just happen to me. It happened to him too. It happened to both of us. And we have bond because that happened. With time, we have bonded. I know he likes me. I know he likes me now. I can see it. I see it. He shows me he likes me. But we're bonded in a way that, like, you know, me and Mina aren't bonded, but me and Mina are bonded in a way that me and Alec aren't bonded. She's my first baby. She made me a mama. She made me the mother that I was. So I said, I can't do that to him. It's not his fault. So I started planning his birthday party and it made me happy. And I was like, I'm like happy. That's weird. I'm like actually happy, like joy. What the fuck is that emotion? And then I had to go back to work and it was scary. And my first visit back to the unit after like all my doctor, at one point I was just at the doctor like all week. So it's like no big deal. I never left. Right. But once I stopped going and there was all this distance, I did not want to go anywhere near the hospital. I went with my psychologist and we walked the unit. And I have never had such vivid flashbacks that, like, if they could have, they would have ripped out of my brain and started playing out in front of me. Everything was happening in front of me. And I was like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. She's like, but you're here. You're doing it. You're here. You are safe. You are not there. Alec is with the babysitter. He is safe. He is not in the NICU anymore. He is healthy. You are healthy. You are here. And I was like, okay, I'm not there anymore. I am safe. Like I had to keep telling myself these things. So I wanted to get back before I went for my first shift, which would have been in the OR. And I was like, I just can't finagle. Like Serge was out of the country at the time and the baby, I just couldn't finagle it. So I wound up going back on February 10th. I was sick to my stomach when I walked in, but I was met with so much support. And like my coworkers, like crying, hugging me. Like, we're so happy to see you in these scrubs. You know, we're so happy to see you in maroon again. And it was almost like nothing had changed, you know, like the scrubs still fit so poorly because they are like made for men. So they're super unflattering and super stiff and hard. My shoes had collected dust over time because it's been almost a year. My shoes have dust on them. So I threw those shoes out and I got new shoes. But it was also like everything is the same. Like all the monitor parts are still in the same spot and the bed is still there. And like it almost was like, how dare you not change at all? After what I went through here, like there is not a change, like this is all the same. But then at the same time, it was like, thank God nothing has changed because it's what I know, you know? So there was a big struggle between like, that room is still there and people are still giving birth in it, even though I almost died there, you know? But then also it's like, thank God that room is there because I get to go in there of my own accord. I haven't been assigned the room. They haven't assigned me the room yet. I asked if they could give me time before assigning me to the room. But I have been in there without a patient and I have sat in the stool and it felt different than when I was with my psychologist because now I was in the front seat and I just sat and I let myself feel what I had to feel. And I watched the stuff play out in front of me and I cried and I got up and I walked out and I went and I took care of my patients. And I actually wasn't my patient, but had a C-section come out of that room and it was hard because I had to walk into there knowing that this patient wasn't in the same situation as me, but had an urgent matter that needed to be taken care of. And I was like, I'm doing it. I'm actually doing it. Like, I'm not like freezing. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a nurse. Like, I'm doing it because I was afraid I wouldn't be able to take care of a patient in an emergency situation because I would freeze.
Mm-hmm.
I went back into the OR and I broke down because I just thought about, like, these were my last moments. Like, this is where it was all going to end. And I cried there, and then had a patient in there that she was feeling like not right after she got her spinal. So like everyone kind of crowded around her, and I like stepped back because I was like, like, this is too much for me. Like, cause it was just reminding me of that. But these are situations that I would never be exposed to if I had stayed home. So as angry as I was to be forced into a situation I felt like I wasn't ready to go into, it kind of worked in a sense because there's no way I could work through those feelings and those situations at home. No one's having a C-section in my living room, you know? So, returning to work has helped my healing exponentially. And I did not think it was going to. I was so afraid. But I think why it helped is because I reclaimed a part of my identity. I am a labor and delivery nurse again. And I never thought that I was going to get back to doing that. I mean, when I tell you I love delivering people's babies, I love delivering people's babies, whether they're sleeping babies or they're live babies or they're tiny babies or they're big, fat, juicy babies. I love being a part of women's birth stories. I never want to be a negative piece of their birth story. Even if everything else was horrible, I want them to be like, my labor and delivery nurse showed up for me. She was there for me. She is the reason why I can say that I am happy about my birth or whatever it is. Like, I love that. I love helping my mamas breastfeed. And I thought I was going to be so angry when I had to do it because that was ripped from me with everything that happened. Like, I breastfed Mina for 15 months, no big deal. And like, I couldn't do it with Alex. So I was like, I breastfed already. This is my job. I help women breastfeed, and I couldn't even do it with my own son. I'm broken. But there's something about me going back. And when I delivered my first baby back, I thought I was going to be so jealous. Like, you got the birth that I should have had, because why didn't I deserve that? I do that for you guys. Why didn't I also deserve that? And that feeling never came. And I was shocked. And I guess because I was afraid I would feel that way, I thought I was going to feel that way. But my first delivery was just, I was like, oh my God. I was a little emotional. I was like, oh, it's been 11 months since I delivered a baby. So if you see me cry, it's because it's so beautiful. But it's really like, I'm probably really sad for myself right now. And I was a little bit sad, but I was so happy for them, to wrap the baby up like a burrito, helping her breastfeed, like all the things. It felt great. Then I shifted another shift, and I was like, this is going really well. I had a couple of bad deliveries in between, somewhere that I had to step out because it just was too much. And I stayed longer than I probably should have because my body was telling me all the signs. You got to go. You got to go. Like, I started to feel anxious, nauseous. I felt like I was going to shit my pants. I was like, I should probably leave the room, but I didn't. I was forcing myself to stay. And then when the baby came out and I saw what the baby looked like, I just booked, and I was sobbing in another room. And then I was like, I'm not there. I am safe. Alec is home sleeping because I work night shift. So I'm a night owl. I'm up at night. He's sleeping home with his sister, his dad, and I'm here working. I'm not a patient. It's over. I'm safe. My coworkers were rubbing my back like, you're safe. You are here. It is okay. And I just let out the biggest sob that I had done in like a really, really long time. And then I walked out and went to another delivery that was a shit show. No, oh God, I can't do this anymore. And like a psychopath, I just keep going back to work. And it's been such an integral part of my healing, something that I 4 months ago would not see myself doing. So having this time in between everything where I said I wasn't strong, I had a strength with me the whole time to get me back to this point. where now I feel like I didn't think it was going to take a year. I thought it was going to take a lot longer. I'm not healed. I'm never going to be healed. I'm never going to be recovered from what happened. I'm never going to forget what happened. I'm never going to be okay with my son's birth story. I'm never going to not look at my body and be okay with it, probably. But that is something that I'm working on. And those feelings don't control me anymore. We walk alongside of each other, hand in hand, intertwined, because I cannot feel grief without an intense gratefulness. I cannot feel jealousy for someone's delivery without feeling complete gratefulness, because I didn't get the delivery that I deserved. I felt like I deserved, but I got my son, and I could not have my son. And this could be a very different conversation right now. My son could be dead. So approaching his birthday in 20 minutes, I am filled with so much love and gratefulness. But I have some grief, because I look back and I'm like, that day really sucked. Like, I can't go on Facebook and be like, oh my God, what a great, happy first birthday. The day you were placed on my chest and I looked into your eyes. It was the best day of my life, because I never got to look at him on his birthday. And it was not the best day of my life. Nothing about that day was good. But to reframe and try to reclaim my son's birthday, what did happen is that we survived against the statistics, against all odds, against what every doctor was saying. I was not in the hospital for months. I was out in 2 weeks. I was not intubated for weeks. I was intubated for hours. My son has no brain damage, no cerebral palsy, no brain injury. He's healthy. For the most part, I'm healthy. We survived. And that deserves to be celebrated. Mm-hmm. And that is just me trying to reclaim another part of my life, because now I have that part of my identity back. I'm a labor and delivery nurse again, and I am trying to reclaim my joy for motherhood again and be that mom that I was for Mina. I'm not going to be 100% that mom for Mina. There's a lot of things that have changed. My way of thinking has changed, and I'm really about protecting my peace now. Like in a big, big way. But I feel hopeful that Alec is not going to have a mom that is depressed and sad all the time. Like, I am finding myself enjoying him more and more with each day that passes. We've got down on a schedule. We're vibing. We hang out. Like, he's such a cool kid. He's just a different kid than Mina was. And I probably could have understood that had all this trauma not happened, but it happened. So it made me think that, like, he just don't like me because I suck right now. But energy and vibes too, like, if I'm off, he's going to be off too. Like, he's feeling everything that I'm feeling. So I really had to do some reframing of my mind so that I can like have a bond with my son and then get where we are right now. If you could have seen me 5 months ago, I don't know that you would believe who I am right now in front of you. It's a drastic change, and I'm grateful for it, because I feel like that old part of me is coming back, like that I thought I was never going to see again. And I'm happy, and it's opened me up to meeting so many people like you guys, like Kaylee, like Tila, like Kathy's, and so many other people reaching out to me. Like, I don't have a big Instagram platform. I'm not some Instagram star or like whatever. I'm not a blogger. I'm not any of those things. I'm just a mom who went through something shitty, and I want to raise awareness on it because I don't have there's no foundation for splenic artery aneurysm ruptures. Like there's an AFE foundation. There's no foundation for what happened to me because it's so incredibly rare. The data isn't really out there because like the trauma surgeon has said, which is really, it's like a mind fuck to hear. Like in order to have data, you need patients that are living. So we don't really know what's normal after something like this happens. I don't have a community. Like I am in the breast trauma community, but I'm kind of circling it. I can identify with a lot of the feelings because trauma is trauma. Like you feel it in any way, you know, and all those feelings are very similar. But nobody else that went through what I went through in these groups. Mm-hmm. I'm the only one. Mm-hmm. Yet I've had 2 women who have had splenic artery aneurysm ruptures during labor reach out to me, one on Facebook, one on Instagram. One's daughter she lived, but she lived to about, I think 13 or 15, and she recently passed in 2020. And then another one reached out to me. When she had her splenic artery aneurysm rupture, she was also a labor and delivery nurse, and it happened at the hospital that she worked at. So that was really crazy, wow. the similarities. But she had it at 28 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So her daughter did live also, but she didn't meet criteria for cooling because of her age. And, but her daughter is alive, medically complex, beautiful teenager girl. And then another woman reached out to me, but she didn't even know what was happening to her until after it happened and her baby passed. So I've had people reach out to me and other birth trauma people reach out to me, just like, thank you for sharing your story and, you know, talking to me. And I have a couple of people that I talk to and we share our experiences and our feelings. And a lot of times people will be like, it's nothing like what you went through. And I'm like, don't say that, please. Like, don't ever say that to me, because I'll always say this quote, goes something, I don't know who said it, but I seen it somewhere. And I was like, yes, someone who drowns in 7 feet of water is just as dead as someone who drowns in 20 feet of water. Like, your trauma is yours, my trauma is mine, and we're just trying to get through it. Don't compare. There's no need to. Yours is yours and mine is mine. Because I never want someone to feel like invalidated or like their trauma doesn't measure up to mine. Like, don't say that. Don't say that at all. I'm not here. I don't want to be a poster child for breast trauma. I just want people to be aware that this is something that can happen. And there's risk factors. I didn't have any of them. I had no signs. I had no symptoms. But these are some, this is signs and symptoms of what can happen. Like, you can feel like, from what I've read, because I've read probably every single case study that was ever written on it, you can feel like almost like a flu, like you're tired, your body's achy, maybe you get a little pain when you eat, you feel full. That's you having the aneurysm. And then you can rupture without realizing that you're rupturing. So you're kind of like in and out of consciousness all day. And that's obviously, baby's not going to live because you're bleeding out all day. Or you can have
sorry,
okay.
I didn't mean to cut you off there. Is this like a pregnancy complication, or like, can this happen without even being pregnant?
Uh-huh. It's actually most common in women over 50. Go figure. And complications are things like high blood pressure, vascular disease, obesity, and then pregnancy. I mean, if you go on the Mayo Clinic, I don't even think pregnancy is listed, but pregnancy is a potential complication. Not really sure why. They say possibly because of hormones and relaxin, and your joints and your muscles and your soft tissue relax, so it can cause the aneurysm. I read one article in the 60s that made me think like that kind of makes a lot of sense. Your belly gets bigger, your uterus is pushing up against your organs, and your splenic artery that coming down to your spleen kind of twists from the growth of your uterus, creates a torsion. Like, what happens if you do this to a balloon? It pops out like that. Yeah. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe when my belly was growing, it just, my splenic artery just twisted. But
Yeah.
I'll never know. I'll never know why. I'll never know how, why I lived, why my son lived. I don't need to know why. We're alive. I don't need it to make sense anymore. I'm beyond that. I'm just like, we're going to move on with it. And we're not going to sit in the what ifs anymore because they didn't happen. And those what ifs will eat you alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tomorrow's a big day for you.
And it's a big day.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure we have like
Serge and I are going to give blood. I had it, and it's from what I've heard from like AFE survivors, I got 14 units of blood, but people get 120 something units of blood. Like I had 14. To me, that was a lot because I've never had blood before. But it's because of people that donate blood that I am still here. So in an effort, again, to change the narrative around Alex's birthday, Serge and I are going to give back and we're going to donate what was given to me. So I have my blood type's A negative and Serge is rare B negative. So we're gonna go do that. And then we're just going to spend the day. Thank you. We're just going to spend the day loving on him and getting ready for his party on Sunday. Yeah.
It's really some extra love for me. And I just hope that you're sorry. I just hope like that your kiddos just like fill your cup and fill your love and Serge. I'm just wishing you guys.
They do. I can't even speak to the type of man that Serge is. He went through it too. And even though he is not out here speaking about his experience, most dads don't. They suffer in silence, unfortunately. He has literally picked me up off my feet. He has been there for me every step of the way. The way that this man loves me is, I could never ask for a better person in my life. He has literally taken care of me and loved me at my absolute worst. And I will never be able to thank him enough for being there for me, despite everything that has happened to me and all the horrible things I may have said or how I acted or the incredibly scary things that I thought. He just believed that I was going to do it. I was going to come out of it. He just believed and he just kept loving on me until he saw it happen. And he's a beautiful soul. And I'm so happy he's the father of my children.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so happy that you guys have each other and you guys found each other.
Me too. I don't know that birth trauma can tear a relationship apart.
Yeah.
And it brought us closer together. So I'm forever grateful to him.
It's amazing.
When I say like I love him, I mean like I miss him so much. I want to rip his skin off. I love him so much.
Wow.
We're dedicating this to Alec and Serge.
Thank you so much. Yeah. It's been a year.
Yeah.
It has been a wild, wild year.
Yeah. We'll have to have you back on even like a week from now. Like, I'm sure we're going to have follow-up questions anyways, but I want to hear.
I know. I talk so much. I'm sorry. And I would love to be back on and answer your questions. Absolutely. 100%. Anytime. As long as I'm not working. I'm not working.
I'm sending you guys like just love and strength and good wishes for this weekend. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's gonna be good. Because the 26th was the day that I got to meet him. So we're having his party on the 26th, the day that I got to meet him. And he's going to be surrounded by all of my coworkers, family, friends. They're coming from New York. And we are just going to celebrate his life. And then I had someone say, don't forget that you're celebrating yours too. So
Very true.
it's my second birthday.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Seriously. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you
Yeah,
for letting me share. Thank you. And again, like I said, you got quiet. I probably got answers, and I would love to answer those questions. This was a lot to get through, and just thank you for letting me share my story and trying to get the word out there that this is a complication that can happen. And I'm just here trying to spread the word.
Yeah. So we'll go ahead and link your Instagram to the show notes, and that way, people can read up your story.
Okay.
And then, if there's any like resources that you have, you can send that over, and we'll make sure that we put that on there as well.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. I'm so happy that we got to do this.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you for
yeah.
doing it the night before too. I know that I can't even imagine how raw your emotions are right now. So
Thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. So I'm happy I was able to keep it together.
you did amazing.
You did
Thank
great.
you so much. I love you guys so much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I've been like drowning in your guys' podcast. Like I just finished listening to, I forgot her name, but she went to check and she got pregnant and she came back and
Yeah.
I've just been listening because like by the time I started following you guys, you have like all these podcasts. So I just like when I'm driving to work, when I'm driving to the supermarket, I just listen to people's stories. And I mean, some of them are just so crazy,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then some of them are so great. So,
Yeah.
and then I listen to some of them and I'm like, I shouldn't have done that. I should have did this. And like, because I'm like a delivery nurse. And I get so angry sometimes when I'm listening. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to strangle those providers. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I can't wait to listen to it. It's going to be a 2-parter, isn't it? It was pretty long.
Maybe 3.
Maybe 3. Sorry.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
No, it's great.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm getting a tattoo on Saturday. I wanted to do it on Friday, but I'm giving blood, so I can't do it. But I'm getting Survivor. I'm writing Survivor with Alex's birthday on my arm.
Cool.
So I can't wait to do that too.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will need to see some pics on it.
I'm sure.
100%. All right, guys. I hope you have a great night. Again, thank you so much for letting me share.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
thank
Have a
you.
great night and a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.